Welcome to the biggest party that podcasting has ever seen. Do you know why we're partying, Tom?
Go on.
Because we, the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, run by Luke Elder and Tom Collins, edited by Joe, watched by you guys and listened to you guys at home, have passed 1,000 subscribers. We did it.
Come
We did
on.
it.
Come on. You basically just done like end credits there.
Yeah.
we just made like laptop buy, microphone buy. But yeah, look, we've actually managed to hit the milestone. To be fair, we said we would like to do it by the start of the NFL season. We're 2 and a bit weeks early. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. And now we've got to set the next landmark.
No, what we meant was by the start of NFL preseason.
Yeah, exactly.
Now 2,000 by the start of the season. But thank you to everyone who subscribed, and particular thank you to all the 1,000 as well, because I did tweet out that we hit 1,000 when we hit 1,000, and normally there's one clever little muppet that goes, "Oh, I'm going to unsubscribe and it'll be 999." No one did that. So good job, everyone. Well done. But we are back on the horse racing front on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Welcome back to the Turf and Touchdowns pod. We are previewing Grade 1 action this week with the Alabama Stakes. And for the first time in 5 weeks, Tom, we're doing a podcast off the back of not a winner.
Yeah, we were in great form until last week and everything kind of went wrong. To be fair, did you watch any of the US racing on Saturday or did you just watch the race that we covered?
I was busy, so I only saw the sword dancer.
Yeah, so I was in the Sky Sports studio, mate. The early part of the cards, around 7 to 9 p.m. UK time, I thought they were really gettable, and I was thinking, here we go, we're just leading up to the big one. Firebridge going to absolutely romp home. And then as we got towards the end of the evening, it became like impossible result followed by impossible result. Not only did Firebridge disappoint in the sword dancer, Nation's Pride didn't win, El Cordobez ended up getting his head in front, but Integration was also terrible in the Arlington Million with no excuse. And you know what I'm going to put this down to? I'm going to say it was just horse racing. These horses aren't machines. And on Saturday, none of them were machines.
No, I kind of think as well it was a case of Joel Rosario and William Buick were just looking at each other. They had no care for anyone else in the race. In the end, look, William Buick is a world-class jockey. He just went too soon. He rode his race to beat Farbridge, and in fairness, he did beat Farbridge, but he also set the race up perfectly for El Cordobez. Everything negative that I said about El Cordobez ended up being a positive for that race because his stamina came to the fore. And look, Flavion Prat, I don't want to go overboard and say it was an incredibly good ride, but everything fell into his lap.
Yeah, I actually thought it was an okay ride. Like he was patient on the rail when Joel Rosario was making mid-race moves and William Buick went a little bit too early going into the home turn. He was patient and held his position before launching late. So I do think he was the best rider in the race on that specific occasion. He is a slow horse. He's not as slow as I said he was in the preview, so I am wrong there, and I'm willing to take accountability for that. But it'd be interesting to see where he goes next. I presume the Breeders' Cup is a long-term plan for him, and he looks like an unexposed horse who could have that capabilities of taking a step forward. We should say about Farbridge, I don't know what happened at the start. Like, why are we 4 horses back and 3 wide on the track? That made no sense in a race that lacked pace. They didn't even go that hard up top, so to me, it seemed like there was a good chance he could have still been pushed forward. Joel sat a 3-wide trip. Then he rushed up mid-race. He was empty. I mean, it was a disappointing display, but I don't think the tactics were right anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think Joel Rosario is looming back towards his poor tactical period of the year, which does happen every year for Joel Rosario. He's fantastic for half of it and not fantastic for the other half. But let's take a look over at Saratoga because the Grade 1 Alabama is coming up. We're dealing with a slightly smaller field this time over, Tom. Good Cheer is back and we're going over a mile and a quarter, which I think is quite a key thing for the landscape of this race.
Yeah, it really is. And this contest, despite the small field, will actually sort out the 3-year-old dirt filly division because we kind of thought that Good Cheer was the clear standard setter going into the Acorn last time. And then she ran a inexplicably terrible race and she was way back in the field. And now kind of this division is open and up for grabs. I think Good Cheer is still the top of the division and the market, international market, seems to agree with me. The morning line less so. And it'll be interesting to see what the SPs are come Saturday. But yeah, this is the race that will finally, hopefully, decide who really is the best 3-year-old dirt horse at this time of the season.
Mm-hmm. Good Cheer in the international market is 8-11. Nitrogen at 7-2. La Cara is 4-1. Maggie's Intention at 14s. Queen Azteca is a weird but fascinating runner in here at 25-1. And Kinzie Queen is at 33-1, who has got form with Margie's Intention. But look, from a pace perspective, Saratoga is always key for that. There should be quite a bit of pace on in here. You've got Nitrogen in here, who generally is a horse that likes to go relatively hard, but I mean, won't be going harder than Cara. If you're going harder than Cara, then quite simply, you've given your race away.
Yeah, the speed is undoubtedly Cara, especially from that wide post. She's just going to break well, get across to the rail, and try to make all, as she has done. All of her victories, apart from one, which came in the Grade 3 last season, maybe the Pocahontas, have all come from the front, and she's made every yard. So those tactics will definitely be employed by her. I think maybe Brad Cox will ask for our adultees to be a little bit aggressive on Margie's intention inside. Try to push Cara. Don't let her just go her usual fractions in the early part of the race. We'll talk more about Cara and why that tactic may work to get her beaten later on. Nitrogen will be forwardly placed, but she won't be on the lead. The question is, will she be sitting second on the shoulder, or will Brad get one of his horses to go up there? Good Cheer doesn't have that much natural early, so I doubt she'll be right on the leader's shoulder, but Margie's intention could, and that could force Nitrogen just in behind horses.
Yeah, I think there's a chance Good Cheer might even be last early on. But like I say, we've got a mile and a quarter to overcome, so there's quite a way. And also, you've almost got the whole of the home straight at Saratoga to run before you get to the first bend. So the layout of the race, we should know quite a bit more when we get to the first bend. But look, let's start with Good Cheer. She's the champion in this division so far. Admittedly, I don't think it's a deep division whatsoever. But she did come to Saratoga last time. She ran in the Acorn. She was well put in her place behind Cara, but it was a wet track which hasn't held her back in the past. But we know that Saratoga's a weird place.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get onto that in a second. What I will say firstly is you've already talked about in the international market, 8 to 11, very short. She's 8 to 5 on the morning line. These prices on the morning line aren't actually available on all platforms right now. I think David Aragona, the morning line maker at Saratoga, only made them yesterday. So they're not widely published, but she's 8 to 5. So what I will say before we talk anything about form is that if you do like Good Cheer, just wait for that international market price just to drift out a touch. I don't see her going off odds on in the US. She'll probably go off around even money. I think in the international market, you could probably get even money in time. And if you've not got best odds, then don't go in now at 8 to 11. I would be willing to sit this one and wait it out. About her form, yes, she was 7 from 7. She won the Kentucky Oaks. She looked extremely good last season. And then last time, as you say, maybe it was the track at Saratoga that caught her out. Maybe it was the wet track, but as you say, she's won on wet fast and sloppy in the past. Maybe it was just Saratoga. Now, if it is just Saratoga, then she's got a major question to answer.
Mm-hmm.
If it was the wet track and maybe she just underperformed, then I'm more than willing to excuse her just one bad performance. Her previous 7 were excellent. So you can always forgive a horse one bad run. But that track is the one concern when it comes to Good Cheer.
Yeah, I am a little worried about her just because, and this is going to sound really ignorant. I just don't think she's that good. Like, but this is comparing horses to Grade 1 horses. Obviously, she's a very very talented filly, but she's not got the wow factor for me. She was good in the Kentucky Oaks. I don't really think she beat anything. The two that I thought were going to be the main dangers completely underperformed, and one of them was wrong after the race. The Fairground Oaks, she was good, but again, what does she really beat? I think this is kind of the first time she's fully been asked, when everything is right with the others, to go and beat two real top-notch horses in the form of Cara and Nitrogen. I actually think this might well be more of a test for her, Tom, than the Kentucky Oaks itself.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that opinion, but I can certainly see where you're coming from. The division hasn't been strong, has it? And for all that she was dominant prior to her recent success, maybe she was just beating trees. What I will say is that maybe Nitrogen and Cara are top class, but equally, they've both got big question marks to answer as well, which we'll get to in a second. And Good Cheer, I don't know, she feels to me like a female version of Essential Quality, just a horse that grinds it out, one that loves a battle, not a horse that's going to go and win by a wide margin consistently, albeit she did last season against some very weak opposition. But she's a horse that relishes a battle, and she's no sovereignty, is she? She's not a horse that's going to really explode in the straight, and you're going to go, "Wow, look at that!" But she is a horse that likes getting ahead in front, and we know that for sure.
She is. She's tough. That's the thing. If you get into a street fight with her, you're probably not going to be beating her. The weather forecast is clear for this week, so it should be okay regards to weather. If anything, it'll be quite nice towards the end of the week. But Good Cheer is the market leader, 8 to 11 on the international markets, albeit that could well change regards to not being favourite, more regards to the price changing. But Nitrogen is 7 to 2 in the market. Now, she's the swing for the fences horse. She loses nothing in defeat here. She gets beaten. She gains everything if she manages to win the race. They're just chucking her in. I know she won the Wonder again, but yes, it was on dirt. She won by 17 lengths. That looks great. Let's just unpack it a little bit. There were 3 runners in there. It was a race that was taken off turf. So you have got a filly who very much is a turf horse, Tom, but her latest 2 efforts, her latest 3, 4 efforts, she's looked very, very good.
Yeah, she's got a lot of talent. There's no doubt about that. And on turf, she was the leader of the division. They went for that off the turf race. I mean, it was obviously scheduled to be on turf, and then it got taken off. Only 3 runners in there. It was basically a morning breeze for her. She was against Bessie Abbott, who came from Ireland, I believe, and definitely didn't like the surface. And Mayday Ready, who's a proper turf horse. And as you say, she just kind of romped, but she did it well. She actually handled the dirt surface, and actually the time of the race was really strong. So I can see why maybe people think she could still be a grade one horse on dirt and a grade one horse on turf. For me, I need to see it, and I need to see it on a fast dirt track because we've never seen her encounter this before. And also, we've never seen her take any kickback. So I'm intrigued to see how this race pans out. If she does get in behind horses early, and it won't be behind many, it may just be behind 2, then she will have to take some kickback, and we'll see if she handles it. To me, she has probably the most natural talent in the race, but I don't like betting horses basically first up on dirt, and this kind of is for her, despite the fact she's won on the surface before.
Yeah, I get that point. I do get that. I agree entirely with your point that from a raw ability standpoint, she's probably the most talented in the race. I say we didn't really learn a great deal from the Wonder Again effort on dirt. We kind of did because she travelled beautifully in the race, but she actually showed a turn of foot on dirt as well,
Mhm.
which I think is quite key. Now, granted, yes, she was going past horses that she should be beating 10 times out of 10. But the instant turn of foot on this surface, I think, is a big positive. It at least showed you that even in a bad contest, she's still able to show her main attributes on dirt. She's going to have to do it tenfold in this contest, but Nitrogen is absolutely a player, as is Cara. Now, she's been a perplexing horse for me this year. Going into the Ashland, I thought maybe she was a sprinter. She went to Keeneland, front running bias. She quickened away from the field. She went to Churchill Downs. And I think we both sort of said the same kind of thing in that we kind of think she's a sprinter. She might be leading, turning for home, but she won't be at the line. And that's exactly what happened. And then last time she completely blew them away on a wet track in the Acorn. So she's an odd horse, but never did I think she'd be a horse for a mile and a quarter.
No, and I still don't think she'll be a horse for this distance, to be fair. I do think she'll be off the front, and I think she could get loose depending on how they ride Margie's intention. And from there, she's dangerous because this is how she's won all of her races. Horses seemingly just find it really difficult to close into Cara.
Mm.
Maybe it's because she's got a good turn of foot, or maybe she's just a little bit relentless insofar as how she quickens up. But what we do know is that this trip is going to stretch her stamina. She's run over shorter, and her stamina has been stretched, despite the fact she has won over a mile and an eighth. But going up to a mile and a quarter is a completely different ball game. She's facing a horse in good cheer who has unlimited fight and definitely stays the trip. She's against Nitrogen, who has a turn of foot and stamina. She doesn't really have the stamina. She has the early speed angle in here, which is what people will like, considering this track has been riding towards front runners recently. But I just don't know. I think she may look like the most likely winner coming off the turn. I don't think she's going to stay there. I think she'll probably finish second, maybe even third in this race. She's a major player, and I think you said she's around 4-1 in the market.
Mm.
She's 5-2 on the morning line, so maybe you're seeing some value there. There was also value with Nitrogen's price. She's 9-5 on the morning line, and roughly 7-2, 9-2 over in international market. So the value could be with either of these Cassie horses. But to me, Nitrogen needs to prove it on dirt, and Cara definitely needs to prove stamina.
That morning line's a mess, by the way.
Yeah.
That morning line is I'm not going to have an opinion about anything here. I'll just throw any numbers up. Here's what's going to happen with Lakara. We'll predict it again, as we did in the Kentucky Oaks. She's going to go to the front. She's going to get there. She's going to look good turning out of the back straight, and you're going to think, "Oh no, they're not going to get to her." And then late on, Good Cheer and Nitrogen will both get to her, and they'll sort the race out themselves. I think Lakara might even be a candidate for potentially coming last in this race. I really, really don't think this is her trip. Like if they were to run her over 7 and just gun her from the front, I think she'd be potentially the best 3-year-old filly around. But I just don't think a mile and a quarter is her trip. And I think everything else in the race, Tom, is a stronger stayer than her. We look at I mean, we'll look at Queen Azteca. She's very interesting. I honestly have no idea how to weigh the form up. That the Maidan form is fine, but I don't like Maidan form that travels. Has been running in Sweden the last twice, and I can't remember any horse ever running in Sweden and then going into a Grade One in America.
No, me neither. I think she ran a second in the Swedish Derby last time,
Hmm?
maybe, which is okay, but I've no idea what the value of that form is worth. That run in the UAE Oaks when she won, the front two were 16 lengths clear of the remainder of the field. It was a typical Maidan race where the leader got loose off the turn, went miles clear, and then what happened in the final 100 yards, I don't even know how to explain, but the leader virtually crawled up and curled up into a ball and became nothing. And Queen Azteca just continued at the one speed down the outside and somehow won. It looked like she was booked for second. But what we know with her is that she's a proven stayer. She will definitely handle the trip. She will keep running when others cry enough. She's probably going to get too far behind in the early part of the race. I have no idea how good she is. And for that reason, considering she's facing two, maybe three very good horses, I can't have her in even an exacta if you ask me for an exacta in this race. But I do like seeing some European form go over to the US. Why not take a chance?
For sure. Curling up into a ball, to be fair, does help Sonic the Hedgehog go faster.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sonic the Hedgehog's not in this race or in that UAE Oaks.
If he was, well, he's not eligible, but if he was, I would have everything I have on him. Who do you think would ride him?
I wouldn't want to be on board. He's spiky.
Just hope Knuckles isn't in there. Right, that's Queen Azteca. The most interesting horse out of the main three is probably Margie's Intention. It's currently a 14-1 chance. Beat Kinzie Queen last time around in the Delaware Oaks. Honestly, I thought she actually shaped quite nicely in that race. This is a real throw you in the deep end sort of thing, but she was good in the Black Eyed Susan, again beating Kinzie Queen. It wouldn't shock me if she were to get third, but I can't see her winning.
No, me neither. I like the spot. I like the fact that they're being aggressive with her, putting her into a grade one. She's in Louisiana bred, so she could run in much weaker stakes races down in Louisiana and win them. I mean, that's what she was doing prior to joining Brad Cox's barn. As I say, I'm not quite sure what the tactics will be with her. I think Cox will ask our LTs to at least be a little bit aggressive early to make sure that Cara has to work to get the fence. That and or trying to keep nitrogen off the ideal position off the shoulder. But from there on, I don't really know how good she's going to run. I'd be surprised if she made the top two, maybe even top three. But equally, I like the fact she's in this spot. And whenever Brad Cox and our LTs team up, regardless of horse, you have to pay note.
And Kinzie Queen, anything positive to relay there?
No, she's not good enough in this race. Again, I like the fact she's in here purely because it would have been a very small field without her. But she's finished behind Margie's Intention twice. Don't see a form reversal, and I can't see Margie's Intention winning. So therefore, I can't have Kinzie Queen.
Yeah, totally agree. But she's the longest price on the board. So with that, that leads us to selections. And don't forget, if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Leave a comment down below with who you like in the Grade One Alabama, because we like these horses. Tom, you not going to go favourites, are you?
I am going to go favourite, but there's a caveat here. There's a caveat. Do not bet good cheer now. If you're watching this on Thursday, well, actually, we're recording this on Wednesday, so it might be out Wednesday evening. But anyway, if you're watching this prior to maybe Saturday morning, don't bet this horse good cheer at the current price in the international market because I do think she'll be bigger later towards the time of the race. So my selection is good cheer, but with a caveat that not to bet her right now. I just think she's the best horse in the race in terms of what she's done on the track, in terms of main track. Last time I can forgive her run, it was beyond poor for her. And maybe it was just an off day. She's been freshened up. She comes back into a group where we know she can be more than capable of winning. And yeah, I'm just hoping that the reason for her disappointment last time wasn't just Saratoga. If it was, she may bomb out again. But I'm willing to take the chance. I think she's the best in the race with these conditions. And I think she could outstay any horse in here. So I'll take good cheer. And what I'm going to say may be controversial here. I would actually play good cheer Cara forecast. And for that reason being, I think Cara can get loose off the top. And if she gets loose and Nitrogen doesn't handle the dirt, then she's going to be booked for second because she's better than Margie's Intention. So good cheer to outstay Cara for me.
Do you know something? I'm going to say something that's going to really annoy you.
Go on.
I think you've read this race so wrong.
Oh, I like this because you know what? We usually agree. Like there is so much
agree.
agreeing on turf and touchdowns, which is great because we do pick a fair few winners. But I like when you're not agreeing Come on, hit
Literally,
me.
me and Tom, we read the race. Generally, we would read races pretty similarly, but
Mm.
I think this is a race that is going to be a big performance from Nitrogen. I think Nitrogen, from a talent perspective, as I said earlier on, is the best horse in this race. I think she's very classy. And like I say, I don't think Good Cheer's actually done that much for what she's actually won. She was good in the Kentucky Oaks, but she beat very little. I mean, she ran to a speed figure of 91. That doesn't put her that far on top. I mean, Nitrogen's ran once on turf and sorry, on dirt, and that was yes in a nothing contest. But you would like to think the Nitrogen could improve. Her turf form is very good. That I think Nitrogen at 7-2. Take that now because I don't think that will last. So take that, and then if you want to follow Tom in with his potentially wrong opinion, then you can take that later on in the week. But I'll take Nitrogen. Either way, Tom. Hopefully, one of us is going to be happy, and hopefully, it's not you.
Well, look, the only way that I think one of us won't be happy is if Cara somehow steals it, and neither of us like Cara to win. So one of us will hopefully be getting the winner here. We'll see who it is. What I will say is there is a possibility here where you can actually back both of our selections depending on when you place your bets. If you're taking the 7-2 about Nitrogen now, you could play Good Cheer nearer the off, even a saver on one of them, and you could still make profit and not lose if one of them wins. So there is an option of playing both. It's not how I bet, but I know that some people like that kind of security blanket. And at the current prices, with Nitrogen being way higher than she should be in the international market, you could play both our selections. But we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, Nitrogen for me. Good cheer for Tom. That's us done on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We're back next week with horse racing, and we are also back with NFL. We've got one more off-season podcast to come on the NFL front before the regular season kicks in. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
Not really. I will say though, on the NFL front, we have got the Listener League draft coming up. Anyone that didn't make the Listener League, apologies, but next year you've got a good chance of getting in. But those people who are in, we've got like 12 days before the draft, so we'll be talking about that throughout the course of the season, whether they're big trades or whether I'm just 8-0 up top and no one can catch me.
Why 8-0?
Mid part of the season, I don't
Are you
know.
going to fall? Are you going to fall apart halfway? Are you?
Maybe.
Yeah, time's running out before we get towards the Little League draft. Like I say, we're trying to find out a way that we can try and do that live on YouTube, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll get there. That is us done on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast for this week. Best of luck with your selections and any way you play the weekend from myself and Tom. Stay safe. Look after another.